Welcome to this video lecture for Understanding Project Management, a Practical Guide, second edition, Chapter 11, Executing, Monitoring, and Controlling the Plan. So let's see where we are in our project life cycle. So we have now, in the previous video lectures, made it through the planning phase. So we've covered all the topics in planning, and now we're moving into the executing phase. This is where the product, service, or results of the project will be created during the executing phase. So this chapter, chapter 11, is the first of three: executing, monitoring, and controlling the plan. Okay, our agenda for this video lecture is the activities that take place as part of executing the project. Then there are other activities which are related to monitoring and controlling the project. We will talk about reporting a specific topic within monitoring and controlling, which is reporting the status of the project. And then finally, project quality during the executing phase. So those are the four main areas we're going to talk about. So first up is executing the project. With the completion of the project planning, we now move into the executing phase. This is where the creation of the project's product, service, or result takes place. This is where we're creating whatever it is that the project is doing. Whatever the project is the purpose of the project. So this is where the computer code will be written, or the house will actually be constructed, or the marketing deliverables will be created. So this is where what happens during this phase. The project team often increases in size at this point. The number of resources often increases dramatically as more team members are added in order to produce the deliverables of the project. In most projects, more team members are needed because there is more work being completed during the executing phase. The executing phase is often the longest phase, the longest duration, and with the most resources, the most cost is associated with the executing phase. So what happens during the executing phase? Well, one is to perform the activities of the schedule. Whatever we put in the schedule, we now need to do. This should be intuitive. And the project schedule should be reviewed and monitored to ensure all activities are completed. So we planned our work in the planning phase. Now we're going to perform the work as indicated in the project schedule. Now, we would like the work to be as close as possible to the project schedule. In a perfect world, it would be identical, but the timing and duration of activities often vary from the schedule for a variety of reasons. It may be things take longer, there's unexpected things happen, and so on. So it is normal that this and typical that this occurs. It's not something you want to happen, but it does happen. So there's often situations where the project manager will want to or need to shorten the duration of the remaining work in order to remain on the overall schedule. So there are various approaches that may be used to shorten the duration of the remaining work and therefore to maintain schedule. This is a constant thing that project teams do. And I would direct you to chapter 11 of the textbook, which describes various approaches. So just as an overview, there's a number of approaches. One is process improvement, is that oftentimes when confronted with challenges, teams will, just by improving the process of the remaining work, be able to maintain the schedule. Not always possible, but it's something that should be considered. Is that you may overlap activities, also referred to as fast tracking. So things that were planned to be sequential can be overlapped. Additional resources can be added, or in some cases, you can add additional resources or have your current resources work overtime or things like that. That's also referred to as crashing. Sometimes pieces of the project may be outsourced, which is a way of increasing the resources. And another solution, though often not necessarily the one to address first, would be to reduce the scope of the project. Is that if there are some things that can perhaps not be done, then that would allow the remaining work, the schedule of the remaining work, to be shortened. Now, this, of course, would be done in consultation with key stakeholders and the project sponsor and so on. Project teams wouldn't just arbitrarily reduce the scope of the project. This would, of course, be in consultation. So, key idea: complete the activities of the project according to the schedule, making adjustments as needed. Okay, another thing that happens when you're executing the project is to produce the deliverables themselves. Now, that you would do that by following the schedule, but a key output are the deliverables. And just to review or to remember, the project scope statement and quality management plan, two key documents that are created during the planning phase, provide a description of the deliverables and the desired level of quality to be achieved. And so those should be consulted throughout the executing phase. They're meant to be followed. They're meant to be guides to the executing phase. They're not meant to be just shelved away and not looked at. They are meant to be actively used during the executing phase. Each project deliverable should be produced as described in these documents. That is the default position, is that defines what they should look like, how they should function, and so on. So, key idea: produce the project deliverables according to the project scope statement and quality management plan. Okay, monitoring and controlling the project. A number of activities that take place. One is to monitor the budget. As we would have previously talked about during the planning phase, the creation of the project budget is a key thing that takes place during the planning phase. So that's something that needs to be actively and carefully monitored during the remainder of the project, and particularly during the executing phase. So as costs are incurred, they should be accumulated and compared to the detailed budget that was produced during the planning phase. Now, just like the schedule, costs may vary due to many factors. A budget will not necessarily be exactly correct because there are variations. In the real world of projects, things vary, such as unexpected problems, price changes for materials and equipment, things that were taking longer than estimated, and other reasons as well. So for an example of this, see the detailed budget that is in chapter 11 of the textbook. And you can see where the actual expenses, the actual costs incurred are then logged and compared to the budget in the same time periods as the budget was set up. So if the budget was set up on a weekly basis, then the weekly actual costs would be compared against it. If the budget was on a monthly basis, then the actual monthly costs that were incurred would be compared against it. And it's that comparison that is useful. If the project manager finds that we are spending, that our actual costs are higher than what was planned at this point in the project, that's something to be looked into, to be resolved in some way. So it's this active process of comparing what we've actually incurred, the costs incurred to what we think we should have incurred by this point, which is the detailed budget, which is the essence of this monitoring and controlling the project in terms of the budget. So key idea, monitor the detailed budget by comparing the planned costs to the actual costs incurred and make adjustments as required. Okay, again, continuing on monitoring and controlling is we need to monitor the risks. So as the project proceeds, conditions may change, which may increase or decrease the level of risks that were previously defined in the risk register. As you remember, during the planning phase, a risk register was completed, which contained the information about the risk, the probability, the impact, and then what we're going to do both in risk response and contingency. Well, as the project proceeds, we now know more information about that risk. We might find that the probability is seeming to increase or decrease. Maybe we understand the impact in a greater capacity at this point. So we need to monitor the risk register. So we should monitor it to add any new risks that we might now detect that we didn't really realize were present during the planning phase. Determine changes to probability or impact, as I mentioned. Determine whether the risk response and contingency plans remain valid, or if actions should be taken, or if we should modify them in some way. So key idea, monitor the project risks in the risk register to ensure that the risk response plans and contingency plans are performed as required. Continuing on monitoring and controlling, we're now at the point of creating the communications that we had previously planned. So as you remember, the communication management plan was created during the planning phase, and it should be periodically consulted to ensure the plan communications take place as planned. So they should occur as we originally envisioned them to occur. Changes may be made to the communication management plan as required. We may find during the executing phase that perhaps the frequency of a meeting needs to be more frequent or less frequent. Perhaps we need to send something in email that we didn't previously think we should. So we may make it's normal and expected to make updates to the communication management plan. So key idea, monitor the communications for effectiveness and make adjustments as required. So at this point, let's review our ongoing case study in terms of the video for the DecoCam product launch project. So let's watch this together.
With the project now in full swing, Sophie settles into her task of ensuring that all the deliverables of the project are created as planned. The design of the trade show banners has just been completed and has been reviewed by the marketing department. Based on their feedback, a few minor adjustments were made and the order was submitted on time. The project has been proceeding on schedule so far, though one of Sophie's team members, Eli, was sick for a couple of days, which caused some delays on his activities. Through a combination of adding some overtime hours and assigning Fattyjet to one of Eli's activities, the project was put back on schedule. Sophie notices that the costs are running higher than expected after the first 3 weeks. She will look into this immediately, as she does not want the project to go over budget. After opening the risk register, she scans each risk. One of the highest risks is that the written material produced by the project contains spelling or grammatical errors. She notices that the plan is to mitigate the risk through strict attention to quality processes in this area. She makes a mental note to add this to tomorrow's project team meeting agenda. Since Eli has been sick, Sophie considers whether she should increase the probability for risk number 7, the promotional video is late. She updates the probability from unlikely to possible. She will pay close attention to this risk over the next couple of weeks. She's also been steadily working through the communication management plan by making sure all of the planned communications have been scheduled. All are in place so far except for the final 2 communications, which will occur later in the project. That is, the company announcement and the final project meeting. Overall, Sophie is feeling good about the progress of the project.
Okay, so that was the video which showed the various activities that we just discussed. You saw many of the things that we were previously talking about playing out in that video. So let's move on to a specific activity that takes place during the executing phase, which is the reporting of the status of the project. Very important activity to take place, and one which should be done carefully and thoughtfully. So throughout the project, progress often varies from the project plan, as mentioned, is that is the real life of projects. So that means that at any point in time, the project may be ahead of schedule or behind schedule. And so it's natural that there is some variance from plan. This then brings us the importance of the project status report, is so that the project manager and other stakeholders, including the project team, the project sponsor, and others, are aware of this variance, that this is not something that is unknown or is a secret of the project managers, that instead that it is known. We are transparent regarding the status of the project. And that's the way we should look at it. The status reporting process is a systematic one, and it is as follows. 1, list the activities or review the activities that have been worked on since the last status report. Now, there are different frequencies that status reports can be created. Generally, weekly works very well for most projects. It's often enough that it's relevant information, but it's not too often to the point where it becomes unproductive for the team. So weekly tends to be a good frequency. But the process is to say, since the last report, what have we done? So list the activities that have been worked on. The next thing is to review the activities that are to be performed until the next status report. So assuming a weekly reporting process for the next week. And we would be actively using the schedule to know what these are. We would go to the schedule and say, okay, what's coming up next? What are we going to work on in the next week or the next period of time? We should list the current project issues, things that are going wrong on the project, and there are often normally multiple things that are issues and things that are going wrong that could be done better, problems that we've run into. We'll list those current issues. List any changes that have been made since the last status report. So any changes that we've made to the project, significant changes to the project plans, should be listed here to say this change was made. And then based on the above steps, based on all of this, is to identify the overall status of the project as to whether the project is green. Green means the project is on schedule, is performing according to plan, which would include schedule, cost, etc. That way the scope is we are going to deliver what we said we would. So a green status is good. Yellow means we have some concerns. There are some factors underway that could detract from these. Either we're late, we are in danger of not meeting our due date. It may be that we are going over budget and we're in danger of exceeding our budget, or there are significant deliverables that may not be delivered of the quality that we said. Then if there's concern about that, that would be yellow. If we are in serious issues, if we are almost definitely going to be either late or over budget or have significant scope or quality problems, then that would mean a red status. So the red is the most serious of the statuses. So it's green, yellow, red. And organizations will provide definitions and so on of what it means to be green, means to be yellow, or means to be red. So that's something that is part of the project management procedures and so on within each organization. So again, let's go to the video and see the process of the project team generating a project status report. So we'll see this in action.
Sophie is running late this morning, as it took a little longer than expected to drop her daughter off at daycare. Without bothering to take off her coat, she hurriedly signs into the video meeting for the daily project team huddle. On Thursday mornings, the main purpose of the meeting is to determine the current status of the project so that Sophie can complete the weekly project status report. Sophie reviews the work of the past week listed on the schedule. Each team member reports whether the work was completed or if any work remains to be done. Likewise, the work scheduled for the coming week is reviewed. Various comments are made regarding the viability of the plan and the possible adjustments needed. Sophie keeps notes on what is said throughout the meeting. Next, any outstanding issues are reviewed, which often generates some lively discussion among the team. Afterward, Sophie ensures that the team is aware of any changes to the project plans that were approved during the past week. Finally, she asks, is the project where it needs to be in order to complete successfully? Sophie encourages the team to be completely transparent when reporting status updates. She wants the team to be as accurate as possible in their reporting, and she certainly does not want them to cover up any problems that may occur. While a yellow or red status is not desirable, as it attracts the attention of the project sponsor and other stakeholders, it allows Sophie to request additional resources if needed. In turn, the management of Deco Productions needs this early warning system in order to respond with assistance as required. As the discussion goes on, it becomes clear that the project currently has a yellow status. The unresolved budget issue and the need to hire a new actor for the promotional video are both significant concerns. As the discussion proceeds, Sophie updates the project status report on her laptop. As documented in the communication management plan, she needs to send this report to the project sponsor and the other DecoCam version 4 project managers by noon in preparation for the project status review meeting on Friday. Sophie likes to involve the project team in the creation of the project status report, not only because they are providing the information for the status updates, but also because it benefits the team to understand the current status of the project as a whole. Following the meeting, Sophie makes sure that any required updates are made to the project plans based on the team meeting. She then makes a few final edits to the project status report and sends it to Arun and the other project managers. A quick glance at her watch shows that the time is 11:55 a.m. Smiling to herself, she is reminded why Thursday mornings are always very busy.
Okay, so we saw the status report process in action there, and you saw the various steps that were previously described, each of the four main sections of the status report, and then the definition of the overall green, yellow, red status. And as was mentioned on the video, very important for this to be a very accurate and transparent indication of the status. While it's not fun to be in a red or yellow status, it does, because you get the hard questions of why are we and what can we do and so on. But it does alert your project's sponsor and other managers to the current condition, and allows sometimes for assistance to come, for additional resources, etc., if needed on the project. So it's important to do so. So the project status report provides a snapshot of the project status at a point in time. For an example of the project status report for the case study, see Chapter 11 of the textbook. Project dashboards may also be used to communicate the status of the project. And a dashboard has various sections of it which give the status of subcomponents of the project. Display key performance indicators for the project in a graphical format. So again, for an example of a project dashboard for the case study, see Chapter 11 in your textbook. Overall key idea, report the status of the project on a periodic basis. Very important to do. Finally, the last section in today's video lecture is to review the project quality activities during the executing phase. So recall that during the planning phase, the quality management plan was created. And as you may recall, this defined the quality standards for the project and any metrics that would be used to measure these standards. So it was an important activity, but at that point, deliverables were not yet created. We were still in planning. So in order to manage the quality of the deliverables during the executing phase, there are two main additional quality functions to perform. That is quality assurance and quality control. So we're going to look at each of these going in detail. We will first view the video, which will describe some of the quality assurance activities that will take place. So let's watch this.
Sophie has a small sign propped on her desk with the popular adage, "Anything that can go wrong will go wrong." When she bought the sign at a novelty store a couple of years ago, she thought Murphy's Law was just a funny quote. Now, after a few projects, she knows that it tends to be all too true. For this reason, she puts a great deal of focus on quality assurance during her projects. As she planned in the quality management plan, she holds bi-weekly quality audit meetings in order to create and improve project processes. Sophie is a great believer in creating effective processes that help to prevent problems from occurring. While Deco Productions has a standard list of quality assurance processes, she's always looking to enhance them for her project. For example, at one of the quality audit meetings, the following process improvements were identified. Deco Productions has recently acquired improved spelling and grammar checking software. The editing process for all written material will be updated to include running this new software. A new schedule process will be implemented. Whenever Sophie updates the schedule, a copy of the schedule will be placed in the project team's discussion forum. This will help ensure that each team member has the most up-to-date information. A new process will be introduced to the daily team huddle. Each team member will provide an informal demonstration of their deliverables as they are developed. This will lead to an increased awareness of each deliverable, resulting in fewer defects caused by communication problems. FattyJet also begins work on the quality assurance plan that will be used to verify all of the deliverables produced during the project. Using the WBS as a guide, he scans the project scope statement and quality management plan as he develops the test cases. In a few instances, he also contacts the team member responsible for the deliverable in order to clarify his understanding.
Okay, so we saw a number of quality assurance activities that were taking place there, and it's an important aspect of the executing phase. So quality assurance involves creating and updating processes to effectively manage the quality of the project. So whereas quality planning is focused more on the standards to achieve, quality assurance is more focused on processes to effectively manage. As mentioned on the video, sometimes those are tried and true quality assurance processes that are used on all projects, and so they are inherited into the project. So that's so that we aren't just redoing the work. We can use processes already developed. But there are times when our project is somehow unique, and additional improvements or additional processes may be developed during quality assurance. So that's something that may occur. As well, test cases to be executed during quality control. So the tests that we're going to verify the actual quality of what we produced are created, and we saw the creation in the video. FattyJet was doing this, was creating the test cases and placing them in a document called the quality assurance plan. And you can see the quality assurance plan for the case study in the textbook chapter 11. So it contains all of the different things we're going to check for. And that's part of quality assurance, is to define what it is we're going to check for during quality control, which is our next step in the quality process. So key idea, quality assurance involves the creation and update of project processes and plans to effectively manage the quality of the project. Okay, our next step and our last step for discussing quality during the executing phase is performing quality control. So we're going to view what happens during the quality control process during our case study project.
As the deliverables are completed and each team member verifies their own work, FattyJet gets involved to perform the tests defined in the quality assurance plan. FattyJet is responsible for most of the quality control for the project, though he and Maddie will jointly test the deliverables related to the video. Over the years, FattyJet has developed a keen eye for defects, particularly spelling errors. While the team's work in this area has been very good, they are always amazed at how he can quickly locate a misplaced letter or punctuation error that was not identified by the spelling and grammar checking software. FattyJet and Maddie make sure they keep detailed records of the tests performed and are aware of any changes that occur after a deliverable has been verified. Even the smallest change can affect the quality of a deliverable at any point in the project. As quality control nears completion, the team grows increasingly confident about the overall quality of their product.
Okay, so we saw the work that was done for the quality control processes. So to review, during quality control, each of the deliverables is verified according to the quality assurance plan. So we follow the quality assurance plan to verify them. So whatever we decided during quality assurance is what we look for in quality control. The results of the quality control tests are documented so that we can show that we've done it. It's not, just something that we, hope we sort of got everything and forget what we might have done the previous week. These are documented in our test plan within the quality assurance plan. If the deliverables are changed after the quality control testing is performed, they need to be retested and using the same test cases, and which would again be documented back within the quality assurance plan. So it's an ongoing process that takes place. Key idea: quality control involves the verification of the project deliverables to ensure that they meet defined quality standards. Here's the key terminology that was introduced during this chapter. Again, you can see the complete list and the definitions in chapter 11 in the key terminology section, as well as the references for the graphics in this video. So that is your lecture for chapter 11 of the text.